Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back in take 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was San Diego, and this was when a computer glitch lit off a whole bunch of fireworks all at once. Yeah, again, I don't think people even really think about things too deeply. The average person on this planet, how deep do they really think?
It's hard to say, and we're just really hopeful we're going to get through this video, but this is just one teeny tiny little example of what can go wrong when you hand the reins over to a computer. You expect them to be like they cannot malfunction, like they're very mechanical and they can make no mistakes. But with AI on the loose, there's an agenda there. And is it a mistake, or is it, what is it? You got to ask.
There's always an agenda. So, again, why do we even have these fireworks as a tradition? Well, it harkens back to the War of 1812. It's war. It's war. They're mock explosions, mock battles. And so why would we celebrate war? Again, this is part of the awakening, that more people are wakening up to the point where they recognize, there's a lot of things that don't really make good sense. And that's a good thing. When we look to this survey by Axios, it shows basically that the percentage of people that are extremely proud to be American, it has been dropping. Right now, 60% of Republicans say so, only 33% of independents, and 29% of Democrats. And if you ask the ones that say they're extremely proud to be American, what do you think the answer is? Probably, the most dominant answer would be just simply, well, we're the greatest country in the world. Greatest in what way? Why? What makes us the greatest? What numbers do you want to look at? Do we want to look at the U.S. funding shadow police units all over the world? Do we want to look at, the fact that the U.S. had 90% of the countries in the world under their control with some form of military or policing force in the country? 90% of the countries of the world. That peaked, I believe, around 2017. As things have been slowly changing, if you've been really watching, you see the BRICS nations rising to power as NATO and the U.S. Are getting ready to hand off the reins, to just more of the same, just with a different flavor. This is exactly what happens time and time again. So, shadow police units all over the world. Of course, they're going to say, they're fighting the bad guys. They're out there, trying to get the drug smugglers. But then when we look closer, we recognize propaganda. We really, propaganda. It was in Hitler's Mein Kampf where it was quoted that, one of the greatest things you could do to persuade your own people of an impending danger is basically take something that you're doing, say somebody else is doing it, give them a boogeyman, and meanwhile you're doing that exact thing. This goes on all the time. This is kind of like probably basic training in all the alphabet soups around the world, whether it's the CIA, FBI, what used to be the OSS, whether it's MI6, whether it was the KGB, whatever. When you get down to it, it's always divide and conquer. So they tell us the all-volunteer force is in crisis. Well, you know what that means. There will be a draft on the way. Meanwhile, military suicides rose in the first quarter of 2023 compared to the same time last year. And in fact, more than ever are taking their lives, and there's so many mysterious deaths in the military that never really get officially explained. It's sad, but again, war destroys souls. It literally destroys souls. It causes the soul trauma. and it's celebrated.
And it is. It's horrible. It's like this internal rot to the soul when you go through something so extremely traumatic. You might find yourself getting through it. And, this goes for all kinds of violence, not just what happens in the military. There is so much domestic violence in this country, and people don't understand the gravity issue of domestic violence, what that does to the soul. And it's almost like it's propagated. It's like, it's okay, putting people in the military just for the sole purpose that they go and destroy someone else. Well, either way, whether you're the predator or you're the prey, there's consequences. And I'm not saying they're fair on one side or the other, but it really screws up the system. And the PTSD might not start right away, but it's definitely a building factor in the mind. And when people are feeling so horrible that they want to end this time in this world to hopefully move on to the next, that's just not natural. That is not okay. And it's not a place that we should be ever.
Yeah, and the people that go through the suffering of war, and this statement here that this person makes says Russia is a terrorist state. You can make the same for Ukraine. You can make the same for the U.S., Israel. You could pick pretty much any single nation on the planet and make the argument that that nation is a terrorist state. And the problem is that people don't realize that's an actor. They're all actors. They're just carrying out orders. He's a well-fed actor. Yeah. He does look like he's gaining weight. He's not haggard. He looks clean shaven. I mean, he doesn't look like somebody that is, going through this firsthand, because he's not. He's willing to sell out the people that he says are his people in order to better himself, make millions, lead a luxurious life, enjoy all the fine things. And, when you just scroll through and look at a lot of what's going on here, and especially like these people are just nauseating to look at the leadership. And they talk about combat losses. These are all traumatized souls. And we got to start looking at it differently. It's the system. We shouldn't be patriotic about any of this system that maims and kills others. And again, if you grew up in a different country, you'd be on the opposite side of that border. You'd be fighting for the other side. And they drag kids out of schools and houses, and they send them off to kill other little kids. And I'm getting old, so when I see 20s, I view them as kids still, because in many ways, emotionally they still are. They might be all full of hormones and testosterone and think they're doing something really wonderful. But are they? Again, when you look at all the false flags always triggering these events, they're manipulated. When was the last righteous just war? Well, if you look deep enough, you're going to be hard-pressed to find one. And I'm sure we'll have some comments with people saying, whatever, World War II, World War I, Civil War. You could go back and back and back. What did the Civil War do? It brought about basically the conditions to bring in the complete control that we have from a banking perspective. It bankrupted the nation. And, there's always the greater purpose. And people's blood doesn't matter at all to those in power. They really don't. They're more concerned about green than red.
Right. And when you mention it that way, that the blood, they don't really care as long as they fulfill their agenda. What does that tell us? That tells us we really need to get very personal and protective of ourselves, protective of our families, not extend the energy out there to somebody who supposedly have been put in power, because that's what they want. They want your attention. They really want your attention so that they can unravel their dream or what they are trying to do. They need our attention. But what would happen if we really put our attention on ourselves and just kept our attention at home, did what we needed to do to help our families grow our own food, take care of ourselves, our family, and then our neighborhood, and then the city? What would they do if we were to do something like that? And you're always going to have someone still jump on the bandwagon for this person in power, jump on the bandwagon for that person in power, thinking that sending their energy to one side or the other is going to help the situation. And they're sitting there, wagging their finger at somebody in power saying, well, this is the problem. That's the problem. No, the problem is we are giving our energy and our attention external ourselves and expecting someone else to do something about, whatever is going wrong.
So remember we were talking about that substance found outside the White House. Well, they found the same substance inside the White House. Was it, again, some sort of party? It was, again, Hunter in town, I guess. I mean, that's just all you can say. It's just so beyond obvious. When you look, and at the top, the greatest apparent corruption is at the top, or the apparent top. But yeah, so cocaine inside the White House and outside the White House. No surprise. It shouldn't be any surprise. Again, the reality is all those little whispers and rumors that we had heard of as CONS piracy theories, they're all pretty much coming true, one after another after another. Meanwhile, you have Newsom hitting the road to campaign for 46 or, all 7 clones, actors, whatever you want to view them as. In Idaho, building his own base, as many have said that, probably at some point in time, he'll be the one they roll out instead of the Crypt Keeper. And meanwhile, also over on the other side, we are way behind. Top DeSantis PAC officials sounds alarm. Interesting. There was a time when he was like way ahead of 45. And now 45's way ahead of him. And now there's a lot of buzz too about a new Kennedy. When you look at the energies though, he was military. He was military. And I don't think once you're in the military, you can flush it all out of your system.
I don't ever want to say never, but it's difficult, I feel.
I do feel it's difficult. It's a struggle. And it's because as soon as you get in there, you're standing there in your skivvies and you're wondering, what was that? Ouch. What was that? Ouch. What was that? And, the reality is that's been going back to the Civil War. And I honestly didn't even realize, it wasn't too long ago. I mean, I just discovered that whole thing goes back to the Revolutionary War. That was, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago doing research. It's like, wow, it goes way back. And in fact, I bet you it goes back. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes back to the beginning of the Kali Yuga in one way, shape, or form. This is part of that bigger reveal. Take heart. Here you have a federal judge in Missouri versus Biden makes historic ruling by partially granting injunction. DHS, FBI, DOJ, and many other federal agencies now prohibited from working with big tech to sponsor and censor. I should say censor posts, but they do sponsor them by omitting the others, and then obviously they're always pushing them. So this gives a listing of things they can and can't do, and it is kind of heartening, and we'll see what happens, and if it gets just tossed to the side again, which they're not going to give up their control easy. No. They again are like a wounded bear going to defend their cubs. Yeah, so they're prohibited from meeting with social media companies for the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing any manner of the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech posted on social media platforms. Specifically, flagging content or posts on social media platforms and or forwarding such to social media companies, urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner for removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech. And it goes on. Now, they can do things, it's prohibited, and then you have the not prohibited. They can say, hey, we think this is a known terrorist organization posting that. They can point out things. We think this is, China or Russia, and again, we understand that the power structure, is beyond the nation states. The nation states are part of the power structure. The puppets controlling the nation states, they're just puppets. Maybe they realized that in Guatemala because they just had a presidential election, which they suspended because none of the above won.
I love that. We can really take a page out of this book, and looking at all the information from the previous screen about the courts doing this thing, even if they were to do the right thing and put it into practice and say, oh, naughty, big corporations, censorship, can't do that. Is it not just for our ears and to try to soothe our soul a little bit? And do they not just go ahead and do whatever the heck they want anyway? And what's going to happen to them? Ooh, they're going to get threatened yet again with court. But you take something like this and you just, you pull all the support out of that puppet. What is going to happen? What if we simply did not, or we, put something like this, like nothing is acceptable. The system needs to change. If this were to go on and people stopped donating all their money to keep these people in power, then what? They need us and our energy and our dollars to propel the system that they're in place. And on some level, we're agreeing to this system. We're saying, okay, fine. It's in some way, shape, or form, mostly with our money, we're agreeing to the system. But, this is a good idea here. We maybe should watch this.
Yeah, and if they stay in control because they created the monetary systems. These monetary systems are theirs, and this is why they want to go to the CBDC, which is going to be based on carbon emissions. This is when we get to that, that next part of the story, with the whole climate change issue. But before we go there, there's a buzz that there is going to be an attack on Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. And as we've shared going back to early December or late November of last year, this was the prime target that they want to hit, the power structure. Now, Ukraine is saying Russia's going to do it. Russia is saying Ukraine's going to do it. The reality is, the controllers are going to do it, and because they control both of them. And so, again, that's if they're going to do it, which we do get that they would love to do it because, again, this is a breadbasket. This is a high food producing area that this war is going on with depleted uranium shells. And, they're going to want things to not be usable because, again, if they buy out all the farmlands, if they buy out all the farms, if they control all the food, hungry people get desperate and they're just going to do what they're told. They want slaves. This is what they want. Well-behaved slaves. They only need 500 million to 1 billion. And they got it covered. They've told us so. There was another post too where the WEF was saying humans will no longer be fashionable. And fashionable in the sense that you're not even going to really be able to choose the way you want to dress. We'll just simply have uniforms. Seriously, I didn't put it in here, but now that I'm thinking about it, well, they said you're not going to own anything. You're not going to own your underwear. So, they'll probably have one or two styles, They'll have maybe 3 colors. You know, when you see those HOAs, and you could paint your house, but it can only be one of these 3 colors. Well, that's what they have planned for everybody. You're not going to own anything, and you're going to be renting your underwear and your clothes, and it's going to be basically uniform. Everybody's in prison. This is really what we're coming to. You're all going to be in prison if we don't stop their plans, because this is, those cell cities. Think about the prison system. There's more people in prison in the U.S. than most other countries proportionately. Millions. I forget what the number was, 3 or 4 million, something, probably higher than that. And they make money. Prison systems make money. Everything about this society is all about getting people that will push down others. This is who they look for. These are the people that unfortunately do climb the corporate ladder. It's part of the structure of the system. Let's see who will throw everybody else under the bus to better themselves.
Mm-hmm. It's this carrot, whatever that carrot looks like, people are going to want that carrot. And when it comes to any type of morality or any sense of just doing the right thing, no, this carrot, which is usually in the form of money, which equals power, that is always going to trump when it comes to those who are craving power, who need power. They're always going to go after that. So they always have this carrot there to make sure that they keep people in line, but again, it goes back to agreements. It's like we've agreed to this financial system, and we have to take a good cold look at that and figure, okay, what are we going to do about it, and get people together who are willing to figure out something, and then have them come up with an agreement on something that's very, very different.
All right, so we have a proud Democrat Twitter account which regularly went viral, sharing extreme liberal opinions. Well, it turns out it was a bot. Yeah, and again, they used a photo of what they would think people would be drawn to. Draw them in like a moth to the flame. This is account, Igor Shushko, who has been growing because of the Ukrainian conflict. And as you see, all these Twitter bot accounts created July 1st, today. Yeah, and they do this on Facebook. I mean, we had so many, before when we had our Facebook, and we do still utilize Messenger a little bit for the people that only have that as an option. But we would get who would we get reaching out? We would get the power structure reaching out, utilizing it. Because again, we understand Gmail is government mail. Facebook is all about making sure and categorizing every one of us. Same thing with, all these tools, which again, we can utilize these tools back against them. And as I look, it's 111. Yay, we can utilize their own tools against them. The numbers don't lie. Corporations are realizing going woke kills business. We all know about Bud Light. McDonald's is actually having a hard time now. You see what's happening? What's happening is people are recognizing, well, wait a minute, billions and billions served. It's truly billions and billions of lives shortened.
It is, eat fast, die young. And I saw a little clip of a guy trying to feed a grizzly bear, trying to convince a grizzly bear to eat a McDonald's hamburger. And that bear cannot read. And that's a very large bear. And if he wants food, I'm sure he just eats it and he doesn't even really taste it. That bear had nothing, wouldn't have any part of that burger. He was like literally pushing it away. Our animals are so smart. And that brings me to another incident when one of my daughters dropped some chips in the yard, and you would think that the ants or something would come and get it. Birds, maybe. Nope, they wouldn't touch it. The ants went around it.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know. So Japan has got the okay to discharge Fukushima radioactive water into the Pacific. As we know, this has been toxifying the planet for a very long time now. And yeah, isn't it fascinating that the power structure does poison the planet so intently, constantly, nonstop. And then now they're growing a consciousness. I mean, seriously, hashtag climate scam is trending. Yeah, again, 1659, 2009, the actual temperatures, they'll give you the quote-unquote science, but you recognize that it's all bought and paid for. This is the big thing. Now people are starting to really waking up to this. As you can see, that blue is the annual carbon emissions, whereas, the temperature has been fairly consistent. But again, over time, there's radical change. We were way warmer than this, and the life on the planet was way more abundant than it is now. The system poisons the planet, and it's just simply, it's another tool, because right now it's about taking away the average person's ability to feed themselves and their family. As you see, June 2023 is so far 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than June 1981 in the U.S. 140% more industrial era atmospheric CO2 over the last 42 years has not produced it. No, well, again, of course, the sun is so much stronger. And then yet, methane release is more potent than CO2. But the reality is, too, there's so much technology to send it targeted. So we had massive heat wave in Texas, but our good buddy in Pennsylvania, they're in the 50s for a high. That's crazy. And then other areas, too, exceedingly cool. That's all about the jet stream, which, again, can be influenced by technology. Here's a geologist giving an impassioned speech. It's got nothing to do with the environment. It's got nothing to do with the climate. It's about power by unelected people. And they are totally attacking our freedoms. Yes, they are taking our money. They're the reverse Robin Hood, and they're keeping it for themselves. The reality is, let them keep their money, make it monopoly money, make it not matter. Make it good to just wipe your butt or start a fire.
Speaking of monopoly, that's actually one of the rules, is the bank never runs out of money. And if it appears that it does, you can just write your own notes and color your own bills and hand them out to other people. So the system really is a farce, and they laugh at us by creating that monopoly game. The rules are right there.
Yeah, so this was David Icke and his son responding to some Freemason pictures that were trying to show him as being a Freemason that were photoshopped. There was one picture that was legit him sitting in a big chair in a Masonic temple, which was empty. And, and so, it was kind of a joke that he did. Now, do we think, because again, it's been said Zecharia Sitchin is the 33rd degree Mason. It's been said David Icke is. It's been said so many are. What do? We don't trust anything that's in published. No, we go by the feelings. We go by what do we get from them when they're talking? Like when you listen to most politicians here in the Western nations, every single word feels like a lie. They feel like used car salesmen trying to sell you a lemon all day long. When David's talking, I think he does, obviously he makes money off of doing this, but I don't think that's his primary purpose. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like there's genuine revulsion to the system, genuine, caring for the planet and humanity. Has he made money? Yeah. Has he gotten famous? Yeah. Has he also been banned from even entering certain countries? Yeah.
Right. And I look at his words, I look at his demeanor, and from what I can see, he is trying to put forward the truth into this world. And as crazy as it might seem to many people, he still speaks his truth. I think a lot of people can go along with things that are going wrong on this planet, and then sometimes they hear about, the shifters, things of that nature, and aliens. And they're like, no, that's just too jagged of a pill to swallow. But guess what? When you hear this information, it never leaves you. And there's something deep inside of you that is going to call you back so that you're thorough when you listen to this stuff and understand that this is definitely real. This is what we are dealing with. And the good news is, as horrible as it is, but when we know what we're dealing with, then we can actually do something about it. And that's what I feel he's trying to do.
Yeah, and we've gotten from our guides, we've gotten from the Galactic Federation. And again, there's distortion out there because you'll have some saying, well, which Galactic Federation? And again, we only recognize one, and that one was started after Tiamat was destroyed. It was actually started because of the destruction of Tiamat, which has been basically recreated into Earth. And, that's when the Galactic Federation came about and came here. And so when we talk about beings like Aset, who the Western world knows as ISIS, and just saying that word could get you demonized on the channel because, what did they do? They named a terrorist organization after it. Well, she literally was part of that Galactic Federation. She's recognized as a goddess, but yes, she is an extraterrestrial sixth density being.
And a very, very powerful, yet loving, yet compassionate being at that.
And we could see what the agenda is, because you'll have Gaia TV, which is giving you a lot of reality, but there is a twist and a distortion in that, I've watched some of their shows, and again, you do have individual presenters that have perhaps slightly different opinions. And then you don't know exactly what they're allowed to tell and what they're not allowed to tell. But I've seen them want to equate Osiris with Enki, and they're not alike. There's no match energetically there at all. There's no similarity. And they'll put up, certain things and say, see, he's this here and this person's that there, so they must be the same person. No, see, this is how they're going to, at some point in time, introduce them, and they're going to have the technology to be our saviors, to clean up all the environmental problems, to clean up all the radiation after the Third World War.
Right. They need to create it so people, all along they've had the solution just waiting right around the corner. When people reach a certain desperation point, well, they'll just bring on their answer, and then everybody's going to lap it up like they haven't had any type of relief ever. So that's something I think we really need to guard against. We need to watch. Yes, it is nice to have conveniences in life, and it is difficult when you don't have certain conveniences, but we really have to start to decide what is important to you. And sometimes if you forfeit certain conveniences, you're going to welcome certain truths and you're going to welcome certain freedoms into your life. So everyone has to choose. I think we do this because it's fair if people choose out of option.
Yeah, absolutely. Our first experiences on Earth were with that wave that came after the destruction of Tiamat. And again, it's a big reveal that they will reveal. And so, when you get to that point in time when they're actually showing the beings from our myths and legends, we have to really have that discernment. And you get it through activating your pineal gland. You have to have a fully active pineal gland. And, how do you do that? It takes time, it takes patience, it takes dedication. And you got to be free and clear of all the things that lower your frequencies. And that's the hard part.
Where do you start? You're gonna see really quick when you're going down this path. It's like getting a fire hose of information thrown at you, and guess what? There's a lot of deception in that too. So you have to be very careful where you pick and choose and how you get your information from. You definitely want to go with somebody who has had the experience and actually walked through something.
As always, guys, much love, and we leave you with these beautiful penguins coming up on the beach. The reinforcements are coming, guys. The reinforcements are coming. It ain't the redcoats. It's the little tuxedo guys. Thanks for your support over on Patreon and over on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation or monthly just by changing the number of coffees. And this is what we also utilize when people schedule appointments for energy work, Vedic astrology charts, spiritual coaching, and the like, contacting your guides, etc. This is what we use as well. Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.